Welcome to America's Horse on America's Trail with the Mustang Discovery Ride. I'm your host, Julianne Neal. Over the next 12 months, we'll be following tip trainers Hannah Catalino and LISANNE Fear, along with Abilene, Bagheera, Chili, Cody, Finn and Rosette, and of course, Fyra and Caillou, as they cross the American Discovery Trail on a quest to bring attention to the plight of America's Mustangs. With a goal of 5,000 miles, 5,000 Mustangs, the Mustang Discovery Ride team hopes to bring attention to adoption into appropriate homes for these living legends. We hope that you'll join Hannah and LISANNE on this journey of a lifetime by following the Mustang Discovery Ride podcast. Enjoy the ride. In this first podcast episode, you'll meet Hannah Catalino and LISANNE Fear, the two women who will take you on one wild ride over the next year. We'll also introduce Lisa Dearson, Executive Director of the Mustang Discovery Foundation. We're here with Lisa Dearson of the Equus Film and Arts Fest, but also the new Executive Director of the Mustang Discovery Foundation, along with Hannah Catalino and LISANNE Fear.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Which camera do we look at?
Just look at me. Forget all the cameras. The cameras are not here.
Okay.
I'm the fly on the wall filmmaker for the rest of this week, and so just no matter what's going on, pretend like no camera's rolling. Gotcha.
Right. Okay.
So welcome again, because that's all part of the journey, right? I mean, getting used to all of this has got to be kind of different.
Yeah.
LISANNE, we'll start with you on this one. Have you carried cameras with you as you've ridden before? Has this been a part of your life before, or is this all brand new?
Yeah, I've only ever had my phone with me before, and if I filmed any training sessions, it was just me hanging a phone off of the fence. And that's about it. I've never really been in front of the camera very often. So yeah, it's a lot to get used to.
Well, Hannah, you've traveled quite a bit with your clinics and things like that. Have cameras been a part of your life already?
Yeah, actually, even right before coming here, we were filming for 2 weeks, like 3 sessions a day. And I had 2 cameras rolling on me at all times. I'm not like loving the camera like all the time, you know, always there, but when I have a horse in front of me especially, or something like that, you know, when I'm doing what I'm doing, then it's not so bad. But yeah, it's still going to take some getting used to in everyday life. You know, it's different when having the cameras on us, you know, outside of the round pen, which is going to be everything.
I was going to say, yeah, it's going to be, you'll get used to it in no time.
Yeah.
I can tell already today everything's getting a little bit easier, a little bit more normal. So, Lisa, cameras are a no-brainer for you. I mean, from the Equus Film and Arts Fest on, even before that, all the things that you've done. We're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about how you're feeling right now. You've done a lot of work to get things going and to get this ride started. So give us a little bit of background.
Well, I'm beyond excited for tomorrow. Like, I can't stand it. I'm so excited for tomorrow for the girls to ride off of the beach, because this has been, it feels like forever, but then it feels like so fast, because I just met them at the very end of June at the Art of the Cowgirl Fest out in Montana with our friend Trudy Midas, who's like, oh, the girls need your help. And Julianne knows me well enough to know that it's kind of like I can't say no when it's something like this, and you naturally fit into what our mission is at Equus Film and Arts Fest, which is the educational part of getting the horse message out. So this is an incredible opportunity. That's the president flying over. He's going to Delaware to his beach house, coming from Washington, D.C. We found out that the little beach we're at happens to be the president's home away from home that he goes to. So that's why there seems to be added security at the beach for us versus just riding anywhere else. But when Trudy said they needed help, and I met with them and started to talk with them and went, okay, oh boy, okay, we can get this pulled together. And they wanted to do it the beginning of October, and so that was okay. That means we really got to work a little bit harder. But then when I started to talk to Ross Petticore, who is the executive director of the Maryland Horse Industry Board, because, of course, Delaware's a very small state considered to Maryland. And I knew we'd be riding right into Maryland, so I reached out to Ross right away and was like, Ross, and he's like, well, October 2nd is our kickoff for Maryland Horse Month. So what better way to kick off Maryland Horse Month than with the girls and their Mustangs promoting the Mustang Heritage Foundation and finding homes for 5,000 Mustangs. So we moved the date up to tomorrow, September 28th, and they'll be at Tuckahoe on October 2nd for that event, and then moving into Maryland to do some fun things in Maryland throughout the month.
Yeah. Well, you're going to hear the term "the girls" a lot over the next year, so we're going to move over to the girls. So, tell me, Hannah, have you ridden on the beach before?
I have a few times. I rode on the beach with one of my first Mustangs I trained. It was literally just for a photo op, though, just to say I did it. But I actually had the great honor and privilege to get to travel to New Zealand with some of my friends, the Wilson sisters, and they let me ride some of their horses on the beach. And man, that was a dream come true to get to ride on those gorgeous beaches, and it was quite a trip. So I really enjoyed that. But other than that, this will be the first time on these horses.
Right. How about you, Lisanne?
I've never ridden a horse on the beach before.
Wow, first
yeah, I've surfed in like 3 different oceans, but I've never ridden a horse on the beach, so it'll be a first for me. I'm really excited.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a little mare that we rode on the beach years and years ago, and as the water comes in, the wave goes out, she would try to stay at the edge of the wave, and so we thought we were drunk by the time we'd gone 100 yards down the beach. So hopefully that won't happen with the Mustangs. I know you're excited. So stick with you, Lisanne. Tell me about how the two of you met. Tell me the first time you ever saw Hannah. What was going on?
Well, it would have been through Facebook. So back in 2014, we had both entered into the same Extreme Mustang Makeover competition. And at that time, the makeover competitions, you didn't get to select your horse at all. You just showed up at a facility and they threw a random horse in your trailer. And then you took off, and luckily there was a Facebook group started just for us trainers to kind of interact and share stories and maybe tips and tricks of what was going on. And Hannah was doing some really cool things with Liberty stuff, and I knew, like, when I went to the competition, like, I wanted to meet her in person because I had been following her stuff online through that group. And so, yeah, I made it a point when I went to the competition to reach out and met her. I was really happy. I was sad her competition horse actually had to drop out of that competition for something, but Hannah still came to the show and showed up and did a demonstration with one of her other Mustangs there. So I'm happy it all worked out that way. It's kind of crazy that we got that lucky.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So Hannah, do you remember the first time you ever saw Lisanne? Where were you?
My first, or it wasn't my first makeover horse, but the horse for that makeover. It just wasn't a 100-day horse, and I was really on the fence of whether I would still go or not. But thank goodness I did. Otherwise, we might not have met. But yeah, the biggest thing I remember about Lisanne, it was really cool. Lisanne, I think, was even after the makeover, because during the makeover, everyone's so busy, everyone's kind of in the zone. I think it was like between like the announcement of the finalist or something like that. But Lisanne was just chilling on Finn, her big black Mustang, and she was in a war bridle. So it's just a piece of leather that goes in the horse's mouth, but there's nothing else on him. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I've never seen one in person, but I think she had done some riding in it and posted it on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that's so neat. And I think we went up and I might have talked to her. I don't remember the conversation necessarily, but I think we introduced ourselves to each other, just like, hey, like, I know you, but I don't know you. Yeah. Here I am, meeting in person finally, and yeah, we kind of kept in contact ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the impression that I have. I've seen the pictures of you standing on the back of your horse, and it's a fearless, Facebook fearless thing.
Yeah.
So I wondered if she was doing something dramatic the first time you ever saw her.
Yeah, I would call that pretty dramatic. I mean, not everybody would be willing to be on their 100-day Mustang and nothing but a war bridle. So I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the photo I shared on Facebook was I had ridden that horse. I had broken my arm during that competition, not because of him. I'm just a bit of a blonde, and I walked into a sprinkler and I fractured my wrist. And Yeah, so I like had this cast deal on, but I ended up riding him in a parade. He had only been 70 days out of the wild, bareback and in a war bridle in my cast, and he was just awesome for it all. So yeah, I figured if he can handle that, he could handle going to the show and all of that.
So why Mustangs?
Why Mustangs? That's a great question. I grew up with quarter horses and paint horses and wasn't really like ever involved with the desert rats or ever looked at one. And then in college, I was pretty broke and looking to ride anything that I could put a little bit of food on the table with. And I was able to, one of my clients had a Mustang mare that she wanted me to start training to ride. And that little mare, she was awesome. Like, she just trusted me so much. And anything I asked of her, like if I showed her the way, like she would just dive in for it. And I thought that was so cool. And like everything I'd ever known as a kid growing up, I was like, wow, these horses are really great. And then my client told me to watch Wild Horse Wild Ride. That's about the Extreme Mustang Makeover competition. And I came back the next day after having watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to do this. And she's like, I figured you would have. And like, she had already printed out the application and filled out a referral. And then she had already talked to one of my other clients. She was like, she'll fill out the other referral for you. And I was like, all right, we're locked in. And then I got Finn, and he was just so awesome. He was eating out of my hand the very first night and my client's hands the first night. Like, he's just been such like a stellar guy the whole time. I will say the next Mustang I got, she was really hard. I didn't touch her for the first 2 months, didn't ride her for 2 years. And I think if that had been my first Mustang, I might feel a little differently. So I owe a lot to my Mustangs, Finn and Callie. I was actually able to acquire the very first Mustang I ever rode and interacted with. She's in my herd now too. So yeah, and ever since then, like, I just feel like once you get that trust, they're willing to do and try anything for you. Like, it's a bond with them like I haven't had or experienced with any other horse ever before. So
Have you had the same experience, Hannah? I mean, or have you had any that were really tough?
Oh man, yeah.
So I was really kind of similar. Like, I was really like, thankful I got 3 really, I'll call them pretty easy horses. Like my first, and I was only 17 when I started. Next year it'll be 10 years that I've been involved in the Mustangs, which is really exciting. That wasn't planned, but a cool way to celebrate 10 years with these amazing horses. But yeah, my first 3 were super easy going, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can be a Mustang trainer. And then Rosette came into my life, and Zuko, the one that I got for the same Nampa, Idaho, 2014. And then I got another one the next year that was really, really challenging. And, at that point I was like 50-50, and, it was good because it pushed me to become better. Had I just continued to get those easier ones, my horsemanship would have never improved. But at the time it didn't feel great. I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about training horses anymore. But it pushed me to go and study and intern under people. And now I'm riding one of these horses that was super challenging and took a couple years to really get her quieted down where I could handle her like a normal horse. I think it was like 3.5 months in or 4 months I was haltering her, which is pretty crazy. I'm generally haltering in that first week. So for her to be that tough was, but to see her now, like that, this is a horse I would have never imagined I'd be doing anything like this with, at one point. So I think that's really cool. And for me, one thing, really amazing about the Mustangs is they are that blank slate. I really love working with that clean slate. And last night we were working here with, there's a Mustang here who has a little bit of handling, but not a lot. And, I was just talking with the guy, he's like, yeah, the most exciting thing is learning more about them and who they are. And I'm like, yeah, it's like having a box of chocolate, you don't know what this horse is about. And so peeling away the fear and the layers is just such a rewarding experience to see that horse really bloom into their potential. So that's one thing that's really rewarding. It might take a long time to get there, but it's a lovely process, and so rewarding to see the horses progress. And I think something else, especially the more difficult ones, they just teach us so much self-awareness. I mean, for me, I've had some horses so difficult, if I wear a different colored jacket, if I like shift my shoulder wrong, like every little thing they're paying attention to. So they've taught me like so much self-awareness, just like what am I signaling to the horse? Because very rarely is it the horse's fault that something happens. It's usually we did something. And so like, going back and reassessing ourselves and like what did we do to cause that reaction, and kind of taking a step back and breaking things down. That's been a really neat part of the process of especially with the wild ones and the ones that are a little bit more challenging.
Well, so I mean that makes me wonder, how much do you go back and research where the ones that you end up with, do you find out where they came from? Do you know which herd they were in? Is that part of what you do, or do you like that blank slate, you don't want to know any of that?
Yeah. I mean, I generally always know where the horse comes from, which, I mean, there's beauty into maybe not knowing and not having that preconceived notion of like, oh, this herd's going to be easy. I kind of go, in it with a grain of salt. Like, I like to know the history, but that horse has that opportunity to prove me wrong. I'm not going to go in with, one of the herds I work heavily with is the Sulphur Utah Mustangs. I've worked 9 sulphurs now, and they generally have a more bad reputation for being hot sensitive horses. They're like the Arabians of the Mustang community. But I'm riding one, and he's my first one, and I really love the horses. About a third have been really challenging, a third have been kind of intermediate, and then a third have been like so easy a youth could have gentled them. So it's kind of fun. That's the most I've gentled from most pool of horses from one herd, and it was fun to kind of compare and see them all, but I let them prove to me like what they're all about. I don't like to go in with too much, they're going to tell me what they're about. I'm going to give them that chance to tell me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I also have a theory, like, where my horses come from, like, so Finn's from, like, the desert in Nevada, and so, like, you can see danger coming from a long ways away, and you have a lot of time to react to that, and so, like, there's just, like, a lower vibe. He's just a lot more chill about life. Whereas like my one mare that was super reactive, she came out of the mountains of Wyoming where there's actually like a high cougar mountain lion population. And so, I mean, like around any tree or underneath, like you could be attacked at any time. And so like she just had more self-awareness and was just a lot more quick to react. Whereas Finn was like, it would take him a minute to like decide to react. But I think like knowing that environment of like where they actually came from, like in my book, like it does make a difference. But like Hannah said, I mean, she's had 9 different horses from the same herd area. So who knows? That's just a theory of mine because my Wyoming ones have been a little bit more difficult than my Nevada ones. So I don't know.
I think there's definitely something to it, though. That horse Zuko that I wasn't able to compete with. I think they call them like timber Mustangs or something. And so half of the herd was actually on the plains. And those are the easier ones. Everyone was like, oh, those horses from that herd are so great. And I was like, great. Like, I'm excited. And he was so reactive. I mean, I was still learning a lot, too, at the time. And, so it was kind of a learning phase. I'm sure things might have been a little differently had I had him now, but I mean, I'm like, oh, I got the one that came from the woods, I feel like. So I think there's definitely something to that.
So with all those different personalities, how nerve-wracking is it going to be to take the step off the beach and to get on the road and go into the unknown with them? I mean, LISANNE, what do you think? Are you worried at all about how they'll react to things?
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie about that. Like, I'm riding a horse that I never in a million years thought that I'd be riding across America. He's a good boy. Like, he has to work really hard to get a B passing grade. Maybe not the brightest horse around, but he tries really hard, and I really enjoy that about him. But he does look and watch things, and he's actually from that horse that Hannah was talking about that she's really excited to be riding about across the country that was really difficult for her and took 4 months to halter. They're actually from the same herd. We don't know like what the chances are of that, but they're from the same herd, and I mean he can be reactive in the past. Like I will say I watched him break a guy's collarbone one time. Like I was the one in the vehicle driving, and there was someone else riding him, and we came down the road, and I came around a corner and I spooked him, and he just like turned so fast that the guy lost and like just fell and hit his collarbone. And so, I mean, I witnessed that in front of me, and then I took this horse on a 27-mile ride with some girls that are riding the Continental Divide Trail. And we were along a road, and like semis were passing us so close, like you could touch them, and they were only going 70 miles per hour. And he was perfectly fine, but it was really interesting. Like, I want to get to know my horse a little bit better, because like I've given my heart horse up, like the one that I was doing all the cool things, he's going to the videographer. And so like, I don't really know this horse. So I reached out to an animal communicator to like see if she could like help me with everything. And she actually told me that he told her that he knows that I'm concerned about him in traffic after watching everything, and that he's fine. And I was like, well, I see that, but like I need to convince myself. But like it was just him like reassuring me again that like he really is okay. And so yeah, and then we have this wild mule that I'm supposed
A Mustang.
Yeah, that I'm supposed to be leading through everything. And so yeah,
Hannah and I were doing a lot of talking, like with like me traveling so much this summer all over the place. Like I didn't get the chance to really work with any of the horses, and like she was super busy with filming different things and working with students and training and taming a whole bunch of other Mustangs and finding them homes, that we really didn't get the chance to work with our own horses like we really thought we would. And so it is a little bit nerve-wracking to be here, and we're already making plans to adapt. We might ride the first couple days just on our riding horses and pick up our pack animals a little bit later. Like, we are super lucky to have the support that we do, where we're able to kind of put a lot of our excess gear in a trailer and a truck that'll follow us from stop to stop. So we are lucky to like have the support, to have the flexibility to be as safe as possible. So that's a little bit more comforting with all of the unknowns happening.
And there are things you work on along the way for sure that you can't even foresee, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's all part of the adventure.
Yeah.
365 days of adventure.
That's been my whole life.
Lisa, you have been putting in the hours to get everything pulled together, and sponsors and all the rest of it. And LISANNE, I know you're the one organizing sort of where you're going, the logistics of the ride, right?
Yeah, I feel like Lisa's the captain of the ship right now, and like I'll adjust some rigging on the sails, and yeah, we're super grateful and thankful to have her for sure. Yeah, we need some guidance in life. There's a large learning curve on multiple fronts right now.
There's so many people out there to support that once they find out about the project are so willing to come on board and say, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll get involved. Like the Warhorse Endurance Project. Who would have thought we would have been able to get a virtual ride, and people are already putting their miles in, which has to make you guys feel so excited, because even after the year, after that is up, that ride now will be continuous in honor of the Mustangs, in honor of your 5,000 mile ride, a Mustang Discovery ride. So there's something that's kind of going to be there forever. So already, you're making an impact. When you do things and involve everyone and make everyone feel like they can come along and be part of it, which is what's fabulous about this, is not only are we going to have videographers who've been with Equus before riding along with you and helping to tell the story, people can ride with you. People can come and join. People can join virtually. They can come ride along with you, alongside of you, all the way across the country. And with the different horse councils and organizations that have already been reaching out, like, I'm pretty sure you're going to be escorted all the way along across Kansas and Missouri. And in Illinois, we have 22 veterans who have committed to ride with you across the state of Illinois to honor the 22 veterans that commit suicide every day. Just the power of that takes this to another level. It's no longer just the story about finding homes for 500 Mustangs. Now we're showing people what those Mustangs can do. They can work with veterans. They can work with prisons. I have an email today that came in from the prison program in Kansas that wants to make sure that we get involved with them, because they want to be part
That's really
of this.
cool.
So, from the saddle sponsors to snack sponsors to water sponsors, people are coming on to help you guys all the way across. And then the name of the group that we met up with, the first Mustang group, they did Delaware Horse Council, so they're hitting the first Horse Council in the first state they're riding with. They did an event with them yesterday, and then the Delaware Mustang and Borough Association is helping them out with loaning them their trailer and
It's
truck.
actually the American Mustang and Borough Association. It's a national.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they're just the head chapter.
and they're the only ones in Delaware doing Mustangs, right? So they're helping these girls right away, even before the ride started.
We're actually staying on a place right now where he has 9 of his own Mustangs, and that's all. That's all he has around here is nothing but Mustangs, which is really cool.
Fantastic.
So just spread that message. And tomorrow when you ride off on the beach, we have Sue Ann Wells Girls Choir from their Mustang Leadership Program singing the national anthem as you're going to ride off on the beach. I mean, and now they've come up with a song called Mustang Girls, which is another really cool song. So it just is going to keep going. And Julianne last week with her students at school to talk about the bill that's in front of Congress right now, the H.R. 4878, which is about the American Discovery Trail, getting it part of the National Trail System. So it's gone from this one little idea that when we talked about it at the end of June, when Jacqueline first got to meet you, who she had no idea when she did the beautiful little interview that's on Equus TV right now, like kaboom, here we are.
Well, I think that's the exciting thing. Jacqueline Taylor is here right now representing Equus TV, and she will be along with you for the first 3 weeks, Jacqueline? So, 2 weeks? 2 weeks. And I mean, you talk about I will be living vicariously through you because we can't all just get out and go, but to be able to watch and see what happens.
A lot of sacrifice.
Exactly. Well, that's what I wondered. I mean, you've got lives at home that you're leaving behind for a year or more. Who takes care of all your animals while you're gone?
Yeah, I have my critters spread out all over the place. My dad's watching my other dog. My aunt and uncle are watching a couple of my cats. I have 2 horses in Wyoming. I have a donkey in one part of Montana. I have a horse in another part of Montana. I have 2 horses in Washington. Hannah and I co-own another mule that's also in Washington. And I've spread everything out all over the country. And thankfully, again, we just have amazing family and friends that are willing to help support, take care of things back at home.
Well, that support that you just mentioned, I love just reading and hearing you say that now, that there are other girls or other people riding these other trails, and you're loaning horses, loaning mules, that the support that y'all have for each other, that's a camaraderie, a family of Mustang lovers, really. Yeah. And so from, Lisa, like you said, from those big, huge sponsorship, $100,000 and all that, to the power of one, with just one person giving $5 through a ride, it makes all of us feel like we're right along supporting. So it's pretty exciting. So what else? Is there anything else that you want us to know before you start off? This is our first podcast. We're going to catch up with you along. And Lisa, you mentioned my students. We'll be zooming in and doing some arts integration lessons that go along with this. We'll be podcasting along the way. But this is the before the ride. Is there anything we should know?
I think you should mention your experience with riding.
My experience with riding. Oh, goodness. Okay. Putting me on the spot. Okay. Well, so we have Fearless over here. And then we joke, I'm fearful, so I'm not the brave one. This is totally out of my comfort zone, but I think it's good for people to, relate to. I
think a lot more people relate to Hannah's story than mine.
Probably.
Yeah, so I'm a Liberty trainer, which means that, I do bareback and bridleless work, which is a little nerve-wracking in itself, but, and I tame wild Mustangs, but I also, I prefer to work with my horses on the ground. I'm not even a big time trail rider, which might make some people really sad. We were with a lovely group yesterday who were just so in love with trail riding and everything. But when I for me, I like working in the arena, and, it's a situation, an area that's a little bit more controlled, and there's not so many variables to be aware, we're working through and things like that. And then I like to take my horses out on the trail kind of to cool them off and to reward them. And I haven't really spent a lot of time on the trails, and, I live in Montana where it's normally just me who rides unless my students are around. So like, I just don't go off into the woods by myself. We've, bears and mountain lions and all kinds of things. I'm not exactly the bravest rider, but at the same time, like, having a purpose and motivation behind it, I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone to do something that I never imagined I would do. It's still kind of sinking in a little bit, I think, but I just really wanted to push myself, self-growth, push my horsemanship. I think another factor that's really inspiring this is that everyone wants to think, oh, like, you must have such a strong bond with your Mustangs, or you must have such a strong bond with your horses, not just gentling them, but also doing liberty. And I still feel like something's missing in my relationship with my horses. I really just miss being with them and things like that. I used to read to my Mustangs. If I couldn't touch them, then I'd just read to them and things like that. And so I'm really excited to have such a personal relationship where we're spending every day together. And it's really kind of stepping back, kind of like our ancestors, same with the Mustangs. We're starting on the east and heading west and traveling with these amazing animals, and it's kind of amazing what this journey has kind of come into. I also hadn't camped a lot. I think our promo video that we shot in April was my second time that I can remember camping. So but I'm excited.
Like, what?
Yeah, so there's been a lot. I've been researching a lot of camping gear. It took me like 5 or 6 days to dwell on which tent I was going to buy, and it was quite nerve-wracking. But it's kind of fun to be learning as we go, but also to see everything come together. And I'm just like super excited to really be able to, hopefully just
Your support dog knows you need.
She's like, I know you're nervous. But just to be able to have the opportunity to do something that I never thought I would do, and really see how this kind of common goal comes together to also help Mustangs along the way. So I'm really excited about that.
Right, exactly.
We've already got some finding.
I was going to say my partner Bruce is going to be one of those people.
Tip trainers.
Tip trainers over even before you guys are off the beach. That's, to me, the message is getting out there if it's just before you're even off the beach. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, for people who are going to be kind of following and watching this, go watch The Caravan, the documentary The Caravan. Go watch Unbridled.
Unbranded.
Unbranded, well, and Unbridled too. Unbridled talks about a little bit of what we were talking about with abusers and sexual exploitation of young women. That's another film that they use horses in therapy with that. So we've had these films have been part of the Equus Film Festival. Wind Eaters and Wild Ride Wild Horses. These are all really good documentaries to watch and get an idea about what is going to be unfolding for the next 12 months with the girls, and the documentary that'll get made, and the stories that'll get told. And
well, even you had mentioned the endurance horse, our partnership with them. It's kind of crazy to think that 4 years or 3 years after the ride, people will still be logging in their 5,000 miles. And I just went on Facebook today, and I see one of my friends is already like 20 something miles. I'm like, man, she's already got more miles down than we do.
Yeah. but that's the power of the power of Facebook, which is so great to get the message out there. But the power of the internet, it connects. When Ben did Unbranded. Unbranded. When Ben did Unbranded, there was people could start to follow, but not at the level that you guys have, and the ability to every day people will be able to see where you're at. They'll be able to say, hey, can we come ride along? You'll be pretty connected all the way across the country with people who want to support you and ride with you and be part of this. This is epic. You know, this is 2 young women.
Girl power.
Girl power.
No.
And a lot of female filmmakers and a lot of people who are stepping up to help you get this out there. And across the country, 5,000 miles, there's those that are saying, oh, well, they can't do that. Well, I am here to tell you, you girls will do that. You'll get across the country, and in a year when we're sitting close to the beach, we'll be in Napa. We'll be having a glass of wine on the last part of your ride. And we'll be saying, okay, they're going to the beach tomorrow, and they're going to touch the Pacific Ocean all the way across the country that they've traveled with these Mustangs and the Mustang. So,
And I have a donkey that's arriving in 2 weeks.
The donkey will be arriving. It's just, it's the power of positive when people come together and want to do something that's positive, and we will find homes for more Mustangs, and they're going to probably know what to do with. So
I look forward to following along with this journey and seeing where things go. And I think on our next episode, we need to meet all the animals. So that's going to be our goal. So tune in for episode 2 to get to meet all the babies, right? So, Lisa, is there anything else? Yeah, sure. Anything else? Where can people go to find out more?
They can find out more on www.mustangdiscovery.com. Mm-hmm. They can go onto the Mustang Discovery Facebook page. You'll find my number. You can always email me. You can always reach out and call me. You can contact me. You can go to equusfilmfestival.net to find more. There'll be a page for the girls. So you can reach out to me, and I'll make sure that we connect you wherever the girls are, whatever part of the country they're in, and we'll make it happen.
And JA Media Productions will be starting our docuseries filmmaking quest, and so if anybody wants to follow along with that, we're excited, very excited. So, girls, I guess you've got a lot to do today, tonight, tomorrow, so we're going to let you go with that, and look forward to seeing you on the beach in a few hours.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see you in a little bit.